Welcome to episode 8 of Geno's Guys. As always, I'm your host, Connor, joined by just Andrew today. And you may have forgot about us. It's been a little while since we last did an episode. That's our bad. Just bad timing, tough scheduling, rough time of year. But we're back. Huskies are more than back. They're 6-0, still ranked second in the country behind the new number one in UCLA. And since we last heard from us, a lot has happened for UConn. Geno Auriemma broke the all-time wins record for Division One basketball. He did that against FDU. That was now almost like 2 weeks ago, it feels like. And the Huskies won the Baha Mar Championship, beating Oregon State and Ole Miss. So we'll start off. We're not going to talk too much about the Geno record because I feel like it's been beaten to death in the 2 weeks you haven't heard from us. But how, Andrew, what's your thoughts on that? How cool is it to see it finally happen? Because we expected it to happen at some point, seeing just how long he's coached for. But for that record to finally be in stores, just how cool is that for you?
I mean, it was awesome to see. And there were 63 former Huskies, Aaliyah Edwards, Rebecca Lobo, Sue Bird, so many others were there. And it was really cool to see that celebration because it's much deserved. He's the greatest college basketball coach in the history of the game, in my opinion. So he really deserved to be honored. But so did Chris Daly because she's been with Geno since he started in 1985. So she also deserved plenty of recognition. I'm really happy they recognize her because she's going to be up on the wall of honor right with Geno. And I mean, I wouldn't be really surprised if they put a statue of those two somewhere in front of Gampel Pavilion when it's all said and done because she could have left. She's like Kamani Young, but for way longer. She could have left to go really coach any program that she wanted, and she stuck by Geno's side. And fun fact, she's also 17-0 in games where she was the interim head coach, where Geno couldn't be there or got thrown out or something like that. So I'm really happy for Geno, obviously, that he got recognized, but also Chris Daly.
Yeah, if I personally was the associate or assistant, I don't know if she's officially associate. I forget the title. But if I was that for 40 years, I'd definitely at one point want to get a head coaching job. I feel like if she were to say, I want to be a head coach of a different program, probably 95% of them would say, come to our program. But yeah, it's just a really cool honor. We knew it would happen. I mean, you mentioned she won Chris Daly 17-0. Gino clearly could have won this last year, broken the record if it wasn't for him missing those games. But yeah, it was obviously they knew they were going to win the game going into it. It was a game versus FDU. They had all the players there, like you mentioned, all 63 players, which it's crazy scheduling to get all those players in there. Obviously, you can figure that they're not going to lose any games before that one. I mean, you did have a top 15 matchup in North Carolina, so if they lost that one and Gino wasn't about to break the record, I don't know what they would have done with all those players there. But yeah, it's just really cool to see. Also, from that game, AZ Flood made her season debut. She only scored 4 points off the bench, but as you'll see here in a few minutes here, she definitely has made her impact so far early on in this season. So we'll just go hop into the Baha Mar recap. I know we told you guys to be doing a Baha Mar preview. That did not happen. But the Huskies, they defeated unranked Oregon State 71-52 in the first game. This was the Paige Becker show, which I'm going to say probably after every single game this season. That's just how she's been. Paige scored 23 points, 9 of 13 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3, 6 assists. Really looked comfortable out there as she's looked all season. And the other storyline for me in this one was the front court. Sarah Strong, 13 points, 8 rebounds. Jana Alfie scored 12 points on 6 of 11 shooting. It was really Paige in the centers, or the front court forwards, whatever you want to call them, were the reason they won this game, the Huskies. But you have anyone that stuck out for you from this game, Oregon State?
Well, yeah, I mean, I couldn't watch it. I wanted to make a point about that because the fact that Monday night there were three different versions of a crappy Monday night football game over the number two women's team in the country and the 11-time national champions, the greatest women's basketball program of all time, playing in a tournament. And you had three different versions of a crappy Monday night football game. You couldn't even bother to put that on national TV. I don't like that out of ESPN. That was pretty disappointing. So Flow Sports cost a lot of money to watch, and it was just I didn't really see the point in paying $20 to watch two games. So unfortunately, I couldn't watch. But I did look at the box score. Obviously, Paige struck out, but I think day by day, Sarah Strong is just looking like our second best player. I mean, she just looks phenomenal, and just goes back to your point. She doesn't look like a freshman. She looks like she's been in college basketball for 3 years. She's just toying with everybody, and I think that she's going to end up being after Paige leaves, I think she'll end up being our best player on the team. I don't think it'd even be close.
Yeah, for me, AZ Fudd, I know that I also was unable to watch, so I'm not paying for Flow Sports. I did watch the highlights of this one and I caught the box score. But AZ Fudd did not look good for a second straight game. She only scored 3 points on 1 of 7 shooting in 20 minutes. So there was probably some concerns around Husky Nation. Is she just having a slow start 'cause she missed so much time? Is this the new AZ Fudd? She ended up having her best game of the year against Ole Miss. We'll talk about in a second here. But I want to talk a bit about Ice Brady, 5.6 rebounds. She is still in the starting lineup. I don't know if I honestly expected that with AZ Fudd back with all the injuries as they start to trickle back in the lineup, but she's proven that she can hold that spot. She played 27 minutes, which was good for second on the team. So Ice is clearly a major factor for this team, more than I expected her to be going into the season. But yeah, that's good to see from Geno's perspective. Who else didn't we touch upon? Ashlyn Shade hit 2 threes. She's good for 2 threes a game, I feel like, at least. That's not surprising. Caitlin Chen didn't play too great. She only played 23 minutes, probably a bit of a minutes decrease with AZ Fudd back. She scored 2 points, only had 1 assist, had 3 fouls, so some foul trouble there as well for Caitlin Chen. Who else? KK Arnold had 5 assists off the bench. That's not surprising at all. And then Chelly Zeibel and Caden Samuels each reduced off the bench 9, 8, and 8 minutes. So overall, a game you knew the Huskies to win. Oregon State was 1-5 going in, even though they're like a Power Four, Power Five level program. Just no match for the number 2 team in the nation. We'll move on. It's gonna be probably a quicker episode because this tournament happened in the past. It happened a few days ago at this point. Ole Miss, number 18 Ole Miss. So the second ranked team the Huskies played this season. 73-60 the final. Obviously, neither of us were able to catch it, but what was your overall thoughts from that one? Obviously a little closer against a tougher team, but still able to pull it out.
I mean, at least one Husky team went to a nice island and actually won a couple of games. Obviously, you guys watch our men's show, you know what happened there. But that's still a good win. 18 in the country. Ole Miss, that game was obviously, like you said, closer, but still, I mean, Paige Becker's 29 points. She's just this is her revenge tour because all of the hype last year around Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark and Camille Cardoso and all those other girls that got drafted last year. I think she's kind of like she's always been in the spotlight since she was a freshman, but I feel like now she's like, all right, this is my time to just take this world by storm. So I think she's going to average probably over 25 points a game, even when we get into Big East play. But I think that Ole Miss game was a perfect kind of not really like practice game, but like really good to prepare for obviously not Holy Cross, but the next 5 games we got 4 ranked opponents, and I that's going to be really interesting to watch. Obviously, one or two stick out way more than the other two, but even still, that Ole Miss game, I feel like everybody looked pretty good. But with the AZ Fudd thing, she's not going to obviously look like the superstar that she was just a couple years ago because injuries are tough. Obviously, we've seen people not look the same after injuries, so I don't think there's much to worry about there. But just I feel like this team is meshing really well together so far this year.
Yeah, and having players coming back that are healthy is important to help with that meshing because you need to be on the court to get the best success chemistry wise. AZ Fudd, I mean, she had stinkers the first 2 games. She had 18 points off the bench in 28 minutes and then went over Ole Miss 8 of 11 from the field. She played 28 minutes, as I just said. Caitlin Chen, 27 minutes. Ashton Shade was the one that didn't play as much as she probably wanted or expected. She only played 16 minutes in this game, didn't even attempt a three, went 1 for 2 from the field. But Sarah Strong, double figures again. I feel like we'll see that every game this season almost. Paige, you mentioned 29. She just looked dominant out there. She played 38 minutes. She's averaging, I looked, because you said you think she'll average 25, which I feel like I agree with you. She's only averaging 22 right now, but that's with a couple of games where she didn't really even play in the second half because they were winning by 50 points against BU and all those lower teams. So once you get into the stretch against these four ranked teams in 5 games, I feel like she's going to play pretty much every minute. And with her being out there, she's going to score points. So I feel like she'll easily get to that 25 point per game margin. Who else? Jana Alfie almost had a double double off the bench, 8 points and 9 rebounds. She's been a pleasant surprise. I didn't really know what to expect from her after missing 18 months of organized basketball with that injury, but she has looked like someone that hasn't missed a beat. Obviously, she'd probably be starting for 99% of other Division One programs, but she's behind Sarah Strong and Ice Brady here at UConn. But she's been a pleasant surprise. She went 3 for 3 from the field, hit a couple of free throws as well. Overall, a strong game. Ole Miss, they put up a solid fight, only a 13 point win for the Huskies. But I mean, when you have Page and AZ combining to score 47 points or whatever that math checks out to, not a lot of teams are going to beat you around the country.
I want to go back on my point with the upcoming schedule. Like we've had a ranked game against Carolina, neutral site, and we had this one against Ole Miss. And I wish this Holy Cross game wasn't in there because I could just say the next 5 games, but we got to get the almighty Holy Cross out of the way first. I think that might be like 80-20 that score that game. But then we got Louisville and the big one, two are currently in the rankings, 2 versus 3, UConn versus Notre Dame. Hopefully revenge for last year. I feel like that loss was my fault because I was there and it was my first UConn women's game and they lost. So Hannah Hidalgo just absolutely owned us, and I think she's really good again this year. But I think that's going to be a really good game. But even after that, we got Georgetown in between, but Iowa State and then USC at the XL Center. So it's going to be a busy month of December for this Huskies team. But I'm really interested to see what their record is going to be in these 4 games because to think that they're going to just breeze by in all 4 of these games is foolish. All these teams are very good. I think Louisville's 24, Notre Dame's 3, Iowa State's 15, and USC is 6 at the time of this recording, I believe. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Connor? But I'm really excited for this month of December for the Huskies. It's going to be a long but pretty good month for us.
Yeah, Iowa State, you just said they're 15. They're 15 for now. If you guys saw, I definitely saw the highlights of this game. They got bullied by South Carolina. At one point, they had 3 points halfway through the second quarter. But yeah, this is definitely a tough stretch. It's a fun stretch. Don't get me wrong, because the Huskies, obviously not the toughest schedule so far, just 2 ranked games in 6 games. But as for this, I feel like though, honestly, I'd love for them to go 4-0 in this stretch. I just feel like that almost might be too tough, but you never know with Geno, who's the greatest coach of all time. I'm gonna say 3-1, and if I had to pick out a loss, I don't. It'd probably be that Notre Dame game on the road in South Bend. But could they easily win that game? Yes, but it's 2 versus 3. It's on Thursday. It's just I don't know. I feel like the Huskies, if they're gonna drop one, it's gonna be that one. I'm not too worried about the Louisville game. They're ranked 24, but I mean the Huskies are number 2 undefeated. And I'm not too worried about that one. That's the Barclays Center as well. Huskies fans are gonna show out. Iowa State, after what we saw against them against South Carolina, Audi Crooks may give us some trouble, but I don't think too much. I don't think they'll lose that game. And then USC is gonna be interesting, but at XL Center, I don't envision the Huskies losing.
I think that Notre Dame one would be the one I'd pick too because that court is cursed. That is where Paige went down for the first time all those years ago when we were up by a ton and she was still playing and she went down with her first injury of the stretch there. So I feel like that court is kind of crazy. I know somebody else got hurt. I can't think of who it was on that court or against Notre Dame, but that's what I'm hoping. Just no injuries in that game. But yeah, it's going to be a fun stretch. But yeah, just in general, this team is forming really well together because they don't need to each be playing 40 minutes a night because we don't have only 7 players on this roster anymore. So I feel like that Geno's done a really good job structuring this team. I think the starting lineup is perfect because Geno Alfie off the bench is really, I feel like, kind of an unexpected for teams. You're not going to usually have a player of her caliber coming off the bench. So I feel like she's kind of a hidden gem off the bench and kind of surprises teams, especially maybe a team like Iowa State, who just obviously, like you say, gets steamrolled by South Carolina. So, but yeah, I'm just in general, I'm really excited for this next run. But all starts with Holy Cross this week. So, got to win that one first before we focus on the ranked games.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun time for UConn women's basketball because Big East play, as we all know, it's not the strongest competition. Huskies really make their money's worth in the non-conference play, and you forget the non-conference play doesn't end in December for the Huskies. They play Tennessee in February. They play at South Carolina Sunday, February 16th out in South Carolina. So there's 2 tough games left in the non-conference after this tough stretch. But I'm confident in the Huskies. I'm confident in Geno. I'm confident in Paige. I'm confident in everybody after seeing them pretty much handle the Baha Mar tournament. As for our next episode, we'll definitely recap that thriller against Holy Cross. Hopefully, start December off with a win, ideally. But we'll definitely be more consistent with our episodes during that tough stretch of games. We just the Thanksgiving around this time, and we were all busy schedules. We just kind of didn't prioritize this podcast. I hate to say that, but that's kind of true. We're gonna definitely once school ends for semester break, we'll definitely be doing this after every game. So I apologize if you were looking for an episode and you probably forgot. You probably thought we forgot about it, but we're back. Hopefully, we're back for good. Matt will be back for the next episode for sure. He had to miss this one, but yeah, thank you guys for supporting. If you notice this channel, we are at 496 subscribers as of the recording of this. If you guys could subscribe, this is the first time seeing it, that'd be great. We're really trying to hit 500. Ideally before Christmas, I think we'll very easily reach that goal. But yeah, that's all I got. Thank you guys for watching and stay tuned.